Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Yes, camp is open, baby. Camp is open. And I'd like to thank Rod Rivera for hosting a 9 to 10:30 practice.
That is nice.
Because, man, did it make my day easier.
Yeah.
Not as stressful. And I'd like to thank the Commanders for hooking us up with a very good first-day interview.
Yeah, you want to pump that? Commanders Daily, starting today, 5:30 to 6 o'clock.
Starts 5:30 to 6 o'clock.
We'll be doing, I want to say, official partnership with the team, by the way.
That's right. So a half hour every day. It probably won't sound too different from this show, but every day, 5:30 to 6, all Commanders, and in it, one-on-one with Terry McLaurin. So that is day one today. So I'm very excited about that. I've also been told, I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but they told me I am going to talk to Carson Wentz this week.
Great.
At some point. He did a press conference and he had a lot of other things. So they gave me McLaurin and said, if you can just wait on Wentz, we'll get him for you. So you'll hear from him later this week. And so we're hoping that half hour will be chock full of a bunch of one-on-one interviews with all the players. I talked to Sam Howell today as well, which we'll play later in the week. Because I just didn't feel like that was day one. And
did you ask him about his Madden rating?
I did not ask him about that.
He's the 10th ranked by arm strength.
Yeah, I did not ask him about that. But
right.
I talked to McLaurin about all the stuff, the contract, everything that happened since, how he feels about the offense. And he was great, as usual. He's a very good ambassador for the team. So actually, we'll play that at 4:30 too, so you get two chances to catch that one today. Anyway, let me just start with camp is back, which was great. They have clearly limited the amount of people that are allowed to go. There was a lottery system to get in. The parking lot where I park was full. So I got down there and I expected to see a large, robust crowd, but I think they limited it. So it felt like it was pretty spaced out for the fans who did get in, but they were there and they were cheering. And, the one thing that was like, I probably knew this was going to happen, but they're still not in pads. So all those answers I want to get to questions I have, which is seeing them in pads, ain't happening yet. So I think we're a few days away from that. So there's that. But it was good to see everybody. The first day is always the greatest because everybody's so happy and
just happy it's back. Yeah,
happy it's back. Everybody's optimistic. Everybody feels good about everything. The only piece of news I would say today was Antonio Gibson was on a side field. So if you want to get a touch concerned about anybody, he's not participating in the full practice stuff, even though I would not describe today as a full practice. It was not unlike the OTAs. They're in shorts and T-shirts. There's a very limited amount of contact, that's going on.
Sure.
And so you don't see it. So I'm waiting for the first day when we buckle up and let's go. And that is probably, from what I was told, a few days away. But it was nice to see everybody out there. If you start by looking at, lineups, which I do, Chase Roulier is on PUP. I don't know when he's going to come off. I didn't get a clear answer on that, but they're describing it as sooner rather than later, which means he's probably good for week one, I think. Because Tyler Larson isn't practicing, we are at third center. So not surprisingly, day one, Wes Schweitzer is the center. And I know that they're confident in him. And my gut says that if Roulier comes back in the not too distant future and is prepared to play when the season begins, that Schweitzer will be competing potentially to be a starting guard. I don't know that he will be, but I think there will be a competition there because I know they like him. So I think he's going to be playing a lot, either as a rotational center guard or even potentially, if Roulier comes back and is practicing, maybe challenging to start at right or left guard over the other two veterans that they brought in. But we'll get there when we get there. The tight end room is going to be interesting. It's a basketball team running around out there. They're all very young, and they're all very promising. And, the one that I think continues to, if you want to get first glimpses that are, semi-surprising, is they have really gotten it right with John Bates. He has turned out to be far more than just a traditional blocking tight end for them. And so while I'm very excited to see what Cole Turner does when he puts on pads because they're so, emphatically excited about him as a pass catcher, I think Bates is your starting tight end probably early in the season. That makes sense to me. But, it's day one. It's late July. We got a long way to go. Things will happen. Guys, don't make any decisions. So that's where we are.
I assume intensity wasn't too ratcheted up today? Was much pretty casual? Yeah.
No. A couple things that, that were noticeable, too, is we're all trying to figure out who's Buffalo Nickel and all that stuff.
Take a drink, shot.
Yeah, so this is the way it kind of looked early when they did do 11 on 11 11 in the slowed down 75% version of it.
Yeah.
It looked like Cam Curl was kind of more in the box.
All right.
Which I think is the right thing to do. And last year, when he was playing deep, like a traditional deep safety, before they moved, Collins kind of into this position, I was screaming free Cam Curl because I just think he's a playmaker for them. And I think the closer he is to the point of attack, the better. And it looks like for now that might be the direction they go, that you're going to see a good amount of Derek Forrest here early with McCain. So it's McCain, Curl, and when they do these three safeties, it looks like Derek Forrest, and it looks like Curl then kind of slides into what Landon Collins was doing. I don't know that that's definitively what's going to happen, and I feel like they're probably going to rotate some people around. I know they like this rookie Percy Butler. He is clearly going to be a special teamer because that was a major specialty for him. He's a burner. He runs like a true 4-3. So he's a burner, and they like him on the special team stuff. So he's going to, I'd be surprised if he didn't make the team, especially with the depth at the position, to be as a special teamer. I don't see him early as a defensive starter yet.
Got it.
And I didn't see much of that today, which kind of falls in line with what I expected. When they drafted him and they were talking about his speed and his potential, and they were kind of earmarking him potentially for this, it didn't play out in OTA practices, and it didn't play out today. And it doesn't mean that tomorrow it won't, or next week it won't, or against Carolina, they, when they play a preseason game, that they actually rotate it and see what it looks like. But those are the two position groups. Safety, three position groups to a degree. Offensive line until Roulier comes back, but more so safety and tight end that I'm watching very closely to see who are they going to lean on for these kind of pivotal roles, especially if Logan Thomas won't be ready for week 1. And we don't know that, but it's possible. What is the tight end room really going to look like? What's the rotation going to look like? And I think the safeties are an open question of who's going to play a lot and where.
Yeah.
McCain's going to be on the field a lot. Cam Curl's going to be on the field a lot. Is Cam Curl the Landon Collins of last year? I don't know. Is Butler going to be this? Is Forrest going to be this? I don't know. Yeah. And I think they're trying to figure that out. So that's kind of day one today. And it's just early impressions. And, I got a lot of attention for my cast, a lot of attention. I had a small surgical procedure. I wanted to do it before the season started because I wanted to get it done, and I didn't feel like I wanted to take a chance on it, like do it on a Monday after a game and then all of a sudden I don't wake up from anesthesia for 3 weeks. I just didn't want to deal with it. So I did it early, and so everybody's on me about it. Doc, as you might imagine, he jokes. He's asking if I can do some functional things.
Yeah, as Doc would, yes.
Yeah.
Just wants to make sure. Okay.
Others are asking if I was in a bar fight. Santana Moss asked me why didn't I call him to help. Someone else said, "Did a shark bite you?" And even Ron Rivera asked me if I was okay. So I felt noticed today. I felt noticed today. He came up to me. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like just a minor little thing. And because he's gone through all the medical things, he was like being the dad. He was like, "It's so good that you got that done and taken care of." That was his response to it. And I'm like, "I'm fine." And I'm like,
Grandfather Rivera.
And the dumb joke of, "Well, if you need me, I'm ready, coach." That stuff. Like that's why I did it now. I want to be ready for the season. So I got a lot of attention there. So that was good.
I should pile one on because you posted a few pictures today from camp. One of them
with
Don Geronimo.
Which I did.
I popped for. My mom texted me and said, "What happened to Bram? Is his wrist okay?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wait a minute! I thought you listened to the show for 3 hours every day.
Yeah.
We've been through this before." And I had just said it was a procedure.
I had a ganglion cyst, which is a benign cyst that's actually pretty common. Sometimes they go away. Every person I've told this to said, "Well, I had one of those and I just hit it against the wall and it disappeared." And that is like medical use of this problem from 1845.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Like why you would bang your wrist against a wall and think that it's going to... Mine, like this thing, it's a fluid leak in your wrist. It's a genetic thing. It's benign. It's not a big deal. But mine, it comes and goes. Like the fluid disperses in your body naturally. It goes away. Well, mine came back and looked like aliens were hatching eggs in my wrist. And I was worried. I didn't have mobility problems, but I was worried that I would. And I also, it's just so gross. I needed to get rid of it. It was like one of those things that I touched, fiddled with, looked at, played at, was embarrassed of. And I'm like, I got to get rid of this thing. And if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it during the season because I'm not going to do surgery in the middle of the season unless I literally have to. So I took care of it, and I had a cast for a few days, but everybody was very concerned about my well-being.
There you go.
Or maybe some people may be hoping that I can't do it. Yeah, who knows? Whatever they're thinking.
Doesn't affect your voice. You're fine.
Doesn't affect my voice, no. The anesthesia did. If you listened Friday, the anesthesia did.
A little slow.
It was a little slow that day. Anyway, it was nice to have it back. I mean, I was just, I've been jonesing for it. It was nice to see it. I really can't wait till they get the pads on because you don't know what you don't know until they literally practice, and it hasn't happened yet, and it didn't happen today. So for those of you who are going out the next couple of days, expect more of the same. It's cool to see them. It's cool to see them run plays. Understand they're going 75%. They're not going to hit each other, and you're not going to get that typical football pop and the viciousness of the sport that I think a lot of us are very attracted to. You're not going to get that.
Let me ask you a question from a fan perspective here, and I don't dabble too much on like training camp and stuff like that. The pictures I did see didn't look like it was that crowded fan wise in terms of the sidelines.
Yeah,
like,
I think they dispersed it.
Yeah, like one, like maybe one deep at certain points, but
yeah, I think that's why I said I didn't know how many they were giving out, but it seems that they limited it, how many people were allowed to show up.
Because I saw Terry McLaurin, Man of the People today, who of course is going to join the show, but he was signing everything, and there was no crowds around him.
Crowds.
It was like, if you wanted one, go run up and get one. And as someone who used to do that all the time as a fan, I was like, ooh, if you're in for training camp this year, it seems like you're going to have some interaction with the players if they so choose to come interact with you. So that's nice to see after a couple years of no fans, can't get to see your favorites up close, really.
Yeah, Richmond was an awkward venue.
It was last second announced, too, so people didn't really make that trip.
It was an awkward... I mean, I loved going down there for a few days.
I'm talking in general, not just last year. Got it. Yeah.
It was a really awkward venue where the fans could be... They could be far away from the players because they were on these fields and there was no place for the fans to go.
Sure.
They put the media in a much closer proximity to it, and it felt kind of far away. And then, of course, you are asking people to drive down there. And while I never thought that was that big of a deal, and I like going to Richmond, I was surprised how many people didn't come to that. Because I was accustomed to growing up, and people made the pilgrimage to Carlisle and would go see it. It's funny, too. I saw Kime today, and he's going to start our typical Friday appearances. He's going to start coming back on Fridays again. And I saw him today, and he's, it's funny, we always kind of joke it's a grind. Training camp's really a grind. It's funny.
Sure.
It's like the real, for us, I think for them too probably, but for us, the hardest month of the season is the first month because you've got to get through all these practices. You get through the fake games. It's hot. You're outside. And typically in the past, they do 2-a-days. Well, thanks to the collective bargaining agreement, they don't.
None of that.
No, they have walkthroughs and stuff, but we're not even allowed to go to them anymore. And they're not fully in pads anyway.
I think that's actually better, too, because I remember you and I would be down in Richmond, and those afternoon practices were the most lackadaisical things in the world.
It'd be 30 minutes long.
Sometimes it was by choice and whatever, but
It's a Friday.
It just
for
seemed
those
like a
who
waste.
know, it's a Friday practice. If you go out to Friday, and only the media can do this, but if you go out to Friday, they're not in pads. They're literally, when they say walkthrough, they're literally showing, this is our formation.
Yes.
This is where you're going to go. This is what your responsibility is, and that's it.
Hut,
and that's
hike. That's as fast as it goes.
That's
and
the extent
everybody's
of it.
going half speed.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they make the kicker kick a few field goals, and everybody goes home, and that's kind of what Friday is. That's what this training camp was, which was. It was odd and a little awkward to see it in real time because it's just not the way it was. So Kime and I were kind of joking, we always describe this as this is the grind part of the whole thing where the days are really long and you hopefully you don't have a lot of news like injuries and things like that. But it's not when the practice is at 9 is over at 10:30 or 11 and then I'm here having a nice leisurely lunch because I could get back and do a show at 3. Typically it's by about the second week of it, I'm oh my God, I'm not going to get through this. And I don't feel that way at all. So it's a different time in the NFL. I don't think this is great for all the teams. I think they negotiated something that I'm sure all of the coaches are this is not good for us. In the end, how prepared can we really be? But it's across the board. This is everybody. It's not just them. And, knowing Ron Rivera and how kind of old school he is about all this stuff, if he could have 2 practices that were full pads, I'm sure he would do it. He's just not allowed to, so...
I mean, I'll say this, too, though. It means just Ron's going to work him even harder for just the one practice. So, who's really shocked about that?
On that, there was a very interesting interview by Ben Roethlisberger that I think kind of falls in line with this kind of general feeling about it. Like, it's so cool to have them back. I'm so happy to see them practicing. I'm so juiced up for a new season. And I like this team that we have. But, like, it doesn't feel like the old school, like, here we go, and you come out popping and let's go and let's see what we got here. And then you get, the training camp fight because eventually it's like they're done with each other.
Tempers flare, yeah.
You're not, how are you going to get that when they're barely touching each other?
Right.
Anyway, Ben Roethlisberger did a recent interview, in retirement now, and talked about his time with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And a couple of the things he said really, really, I think got to the Steelers a little bit. He described the players now as having a me-type attitude and not a team-type attitude, and that it is, and it also, he described like training camp and all this stuff. He said, people have changed, the game has changed, addressing what was basically like, when I first got in the league, this is the way we did things under Bill Cowher, and over the last, and some of this is circumstantial. It's CBAs have changed how they're allowed to practice.
Sure. Yeah.
He's also, and granted, he also has had two premier receivers who were very me guys. Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster to a lesser degree, but has an extraordinarily large social media following and is, was doing the dances in end zones, and that was as important as the practice to him. And Antonio Brown, who comes off to me as like kind of a crazy person, really wildly talented, but kind of a crazy person. And so Roethlisberger talked about this stuff, and so they went to the current Steelers and were like, what do you think about Ben Roethlisberger saying that the team he was on his entire career has a me-type attitude? And Cam Hayward, who's the captain of the team now, goes, that really rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm going to talk to him about it. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't make it sound like we're just kind of lollygagging through
one
stuff,
of the last
we're not.
Few prideful organizations left, that do it old school and still not go far lately, but they are still pretty consistent with what they do and how they act. And I can't believe Ben went that far.
Yeah.
Already. He's only been out of there for 5 minutes.
Yeah. This was his quote. I mean, these quotes are pretty damning, really, about the league.
Yeah.
And about the Steelers, too, but really about the league. He said, the team was so important when he first showed up. It was all about the team. Now it's about me and this and that and the other. And I might be standing on a soapbox a little bit, but that's my biggest takeaway from when I started to the end of my career. It turned from a team first to a me-type attitude, and it was hard. It was hard for these young guys with social media. They're treated so well in college, and now with this NIL stuff, which is unbelievable, they're treated so special. They're coddled at a young age because college coaches need them to win. I know that my offensive coach or Bill Cowher wouldn't have coddled me.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Hayward said he's a little bit upset with that.
He should be, though. That's his former captain.
And he said, it looks as though we're looked at as selfish players, and I don't think that at all. He said, we have a lot of young players that come from different backgrounds, have experienced different things from what others or I may have experienced, and that doesn't make them selfish or more of a me-type guy. There's a lot more team-first guys than me-type attitude, so I took offense to that. I don't blame him. It's just, even if you think that that's true, it's not a good thing to say.
Well,
it
as
really
I said,
isn't.
You want to say it 5 years down the line when none of your former teammates are there? Fine. I think you have at it. But you just got out of there and you've been a Steeler your whole career and you waited 5 minutes to go out against them? Come on, man.
He went on to say this. He goes, I'm accountable for these guys. Hayward to his teammates. He said, obviously we haven't had a Super Bowl in a long time, and maybe that's where Ben is like, man, if those guys would have grown up. But it's up to the older guys to step up and hold guys accountable. It's up to a vet to put you under your wing and pull you across and say, hey, this is what it's like to be a Steeler, and that's what I'm trying to do. Maybe Ben didn't see it that way, but man, I'm going to protect my guys. You can't just say I'm a me attitude guy. Everyone's out there to be a Super Bowl winner and make money and be an MVP, but when it comes together, we care about one thing, this logo. I've always tried to extend that to my younger teammates, and I think Ben was a little out on that one. And I've been saying this about our team a little bit because we don't have this, they don't have the same problem up there of a perception of, the team being all in. Everyone looks at the Steelers still as like one of the model franchises, right? Even though they've had a lot of problems like anyone else has had, but no one looks at them that way. And you'll hear this from McLaurin because I asked him directly, why did he write the letter to the fans that he wrote after he signed the extension? And he spoke very, openly about why he felt like it was necessary to do it, why he feels like just because I got this money that there is a responsibility to live up to the money that showed up here. And what I like about what's happening from John Allen to McLaurin to a couple of other select people here that are what I would describe as now the entrenched team leaders, and those two guys have been paid, is that they are making it very clear that that W on their helmet matters to them, that the jersey matters to them. And I think that's something that feels like perceptually has been missing here for a while. So I was surprised to hear Ben say it because they don't have that perception problem up there. Everyone looks at like that's a destination place to go. They're stable. Their coaches have been there forever. They're consistently competitive. They have all these Hall of Fame players. If they're not in the playoffs, it's a surprise. Here, we're in the cycle of negativity and everyone assumes everything's going to go wrong and guys, do they really want to be here? And we have these weird conversations like, would a free agent sign there? Of which I'm always like, what are you talking about? Like, if we offer them the best, package, they'll come here and play here. It is refreshing to hear some of our guys say, it's not about me. I know I got the money, but it is about what we're trying to build and do and win. Right. And we're going to put aside all the other stuff. The other thing that I think kind of became a topic of conversation today was off of yesterday when we played Ron Rivera's first press conference where there were some, I think the best way to put it were awkward moments in it. Like odd. Typically you get the enthusiasm. It's day one. Let's go. I like what we got. Realistic, but you get that. And he sounded exasperated by all the negative stories that persist, that aren't his fault, but do persist. Sure. He sounded exasperated by that, pushed back hard on, don't talk to me about playoffs or bust. I don't even want to hear it. Right. From any of you. And so we were kind of, the media and I were kind of, all the people who were assembled were kind of talking about it. And they all had the same reaction. They were like, wow, like he's sounded pretty, beat up by the whole thing on day one. That's an unusual sign, especially from him. He's very optimistic about everything. And I kind of landed on, and I wonder if this is going to kind of persist. At some point, like I wonder if he or the team are going to look at this whole operation as, for right now, kind of two different entities. The one that's happening on the field, that's under Ron Rivera's tutelage, and the front office that is very, very different than the one that was here in the past, that are working in coordination with them, and the marketing and sales side that are very different and are trying to distance themselves and are trying to introduce fight songs and mascots and new stuff and trying, and there's missteps, but they're trying to open the doors back up, let the fan base back in, stop being arm's length about the whole thing, trying to like, hey, come back into the tent. We got a big tent here. We also have something that's really being built. At the same time, there is questions about what's going to happen tomorrow in Congress, and there's questions about all these other things that are going to happen. And I've kind of landed on, I think at some point we collectively need to look at this as two different entities. There's one that is still dealing with the past that really has nothing to do with the future, frankly. Right. And the part of the future that's in between the lines and trying to build some connection back with the community again through fight songs or whatever it may be, as a completely different thing. And if you're able to try to separate some of that stuff, I think you'd have a better experience with this. And that's how I kind of look at it now. It does feel like there's two different worlds out there. One that is part of the progress that is so dying to get away from the bad news cycles. And I don't know, what they are building on the field does feel like it is not in conjunction with what's happening off the field. For a very long time, it did feel like all those decisions that were coming, from, the side that really was dysfunctional was actually affecting the on the field stuff. And so I think it was easy to link the two. I don't know that you can really make that direct link right now. There feels like there is a separation, and there are kind of two things going on at the same time. One of them does have a very positive vibe to it, and the other one clearly does not. Can we get around to separating those two? And I don't know if we're there or we're going to get there or if that's possible, but that's how I kind of feel about it at this point.
No, I mean, I have largely said that's how I've been moving forward with the team in general. I feel like if you can't separate the two, fine. You're more than welcome to kind of,
find your way in your NFL world.
Put them in the background if you need to, figure it out. But I've largely moved forward in that way of you kind of have to separate the two, or else you're just going to be, it's going to be a grind for you than just following the team. It is not unlike, what's going on with the Nats right now. Are you going to stop being a Nats fan because of some of the stuff that's going on with not signing free agents and stuff like that? No, but you might make it a background thing if you're really that hurt with what could happen, a week from now. So, yeah, I mean, whatever you got to do to move forward. I agree with that.
I just, it really goes back to, I think the ultimate pivot point was when Bruce Allen said damn good culture to everybody. And it was, I can't believe the room didn't even start laughing when he said it because it was so untrue, and it was so patently untrue, or it was so, you're in a bubble and you are so blind to what's going on here right now. And that really started to unravel that whole thing. And then a lot of stuff started to happen, that I think needed to be exposed and needed to be dealt with.
Of course.
Since then, the new group that's come in has tried desperately to try to rebuild. And I was saying this back then with Bruce Allen, the most important thing that they can do is stop being so, Pentagon-ish with their fan base. They're your customers. You need to start talking to them like they're your customers and service their needs and speak to them and communicate with them. And this new group came in, and I think one of the flaws that they had was that many of them weren't from here. And so they didn't really totally grasp the nature of the wound or how to fix it. And as they've gone along, they've gotten incrementally better.
Right.
But at the same time, they haven't thrown their hands up and said, this is a lost cause. We're going to continue to do things to try to rebuild amidst, a very controversial thing, changing a brand, changing a name, changing all these things in and around it. I do think we've hit a point now where it's time to separate. Let Rivera and his team be a separate entity from all the stuff of the past, and let the past stuff figure itself out, whatever it is, and then they can get back into congruence again. But they're not the same thing anymore. And I do hope that people can kind of start seeing it that way.
Yeah.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll play Carson Wentz did his first press conference at the start of training camp today on his day one in his first training camp as Commanders quarterback. We'll hear from him next. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Nats and Dodgers are scoreless, bottom one in the finale of their series that the Nationals shockingly have won the first two games of.
Hilarious.
Patrick Corbin's pitching for the Nationals. Who's going to take his contract to get Juan Soto? Mike Rizzo says that's not part of the deal, and we'll get to that at 4 o'clock because he did speak openly on the Junkies this morning about what's going on with Juan Soto and their opinion of all of that. So bottom one there, scoreless Dodgers and Nationals. All right. At camp today, day one, the new quarterback spoke. He was one of the 3 available players to do a media press conference. So let's listen into Carson Wentz after his first practice of the first training camp.
Fun to get back out there and officially kick it off the right way. And, we got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of work to do, but I'm excited for the season.
Carson, I'm sure there's different mile markers for you throughout a training camp. What's sort of the first one that you get to that you're kind of most focused on to get established and then kind of move forward?
Yeah, I think early on for me is just finding that timing and chemistry with guys. You get a little bit of it in the spring, you get a little bit of it in the summer, on your own. But now that you're out here against the defense, all that stuff, just understanding guys, how they get in and out of breaks, in and out of cuts, finding that chemistry so I can, get the ball out on time, where it needs to be, and just start working that chemistry with these guys. That's really the focal point kind of for me early on, but then also just building that culture, that chemistry with all the guys, both on and off the field. And it's been fun, even just through these first day and a half here.
And then with regards to the playbook, where is that process for you? I'm sure at one point you want to get it so you're completely instinct, but where are you kind of now with that?
Yeah, I feel good with it. Honestly, I feel good. It was an adjustment in the spring. It was a lot of information. It's always a new language, but it's the part of the game that I love. It's part of understanding the X's and O's, asking the questions, why are we doing this, what's going on here? And Coach has been awesome helping me learn and learn quickly, and I feel pretty good with it.
Hi, Carson. Do you know pretty quickly if you're going to have a strong connection with a receiver or a tight end? Does that you notice it pretty quickly, or does it take a while to build up?
It's definitely a fair question. I'd say yes. Normally, everyone's unique, everyone's different. Some days you come out here, you're going to get 20-some reps with the guys. Some days you're going to not get a single one. And so that's part of it. But, you start to see guys' tendencies early and start to kind of understand how they get in and out and what they do well and how we can work together. And so I like what I see out there. I think we got a dynamic group and a lot of really good playmakers that we just got to find a way to get it in their hands. I got to find a way to get it in their hands and let them make their plays.
Might be a stupid question, but how do you go about building the culture within the locker room and building just that rapport and chemistry with guys that you're fairly new to?
Yeah, you try not to do anything out of the ordinary. You know, you just let those relationships naturally build. You know, you come in, for me, this is year 7, things are different. I'm a little older, you know, a little different perspective, and relatively younger team, younger locker room. And so just how do you build relationships? It looks different every year. Every locker room looks different, but you just have to be intentional and build that chemistry and that relationship in time. And it's a lot of good dudes in there, and it's been fun getting to know them.
Carson, have you been around enough to have a sense of the whole roster and what the potential of this team might be?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I mean, obviously, it's a little different, but I've played this team plenty over the years, so I've seen my fair share of the guys on the defensive side of the ball from the other side, and so I definitely know the potential. I know we got a long way to go. I know it's day one. You know, there's a lot of mistakes out there to clean up on both sides of the ball, but I think that the nucleus of the team, the chemistry, the culture that's been established is going to keep getting better, and I like what I see right now.
At all during the offseason when you meet with guys, I mean, you have those workouts, does playoffs ever come up? Do you think in those terms, or no?
Not really. I mean, you all have goals. You have goals, high expectations. You know, you have a lot of that, but then you come out here and it's like, okay, how do I get better today? You know, you have these long-term goals, but then you can't look too much at the future, look too much ahead, because you got to do what's required of you at that moment, you know, within each play, within each practice, within each day. And so try not to think too big picture like that, because you can overlook some things that are right in front of you. And I think most guys have that same kind of mindset of just every day, let's get a little bit better. We know where we want to go. We know the expectations. That's understood. But now how do we get there one day at a time?
Carson, I know this wasn't your first time on the field with these guys, but there's something a little bit different at the start of training camp. Did it feel any different for you? Was there any kind of like introspection today before you come out here because it is the start of camp? Yeah,
it's a good question. It was a little hotter, a little more humid early on, but otherwise not really. We're still right here at the facility, same group of guys, same everything. I think walking in yesterday, just officially, hey, year 7's kicking off. You know, just that realization of year 7 for me and all of that, and what comes along with that. So that was cool, you know, kind of just a surreal thing. Every year you kind of get goosebumps again, thinking you grew up wanting to play this game and you're still playing it. So I get those kind of goosebumps every camp on day one, and then it's just ball. It's just ball and go have fun. And then given like your situation the last couple of years, is it almost natural to lead to some sort of introspection about, well, is there something I can do better to make sure I don't put myself in that situation again? And if so, is there anything that you kind of looked at yourself in the offseason and say, well, I want to be better here going into this year? Anything at all? Yeah, I mean, I think regardless if it's a good, bad, ugly game, year, whatever, I'm always that way. I'm always trying, how can I get better? How can I look at myself first? Where can I get better? Where can I help the team be better? All of those things. And so for me, it's just coming in and distributing the ball to these guys and being efficient, being effective, being consistent, both physically with my play and also just with my attitude, with my leadership, trying to be consistent with that. And so those are things I look at every single year. And then there's always a couple things here and there mechanically that you're trying to focus on, or fundamentally that most people would probably never understand or really recognize. But you're always focusing on a couple things in the off seasons to try and get better.
How beneficial was that workout in California with the rest of the group, and what made you kind of want to do that?
It was really good. I think it was beneficial to get on the field, obviously, for a couple days and start building that chemistry that I've been talking about, but also just off the field. You know, going to dinner with each guy, going to breakfast, lunch, just being around them. You know, going and just kicking it with the guys, getting to know each guy, where we're from, what we like, what are our hobbies. Guys are in different seasons of life. I got 2 kids and married and a lot of single guys, and there's just a different kind of atmosphere, and to come together and kind of build a relationship it was a lot of fun. It's something that I definitely cherish, getting to know guys from all over the place, and I thought that was fun. The workouts were great, and it was definitely beneficial.
Is there any guy's hobby that stood out to you, or any fun tidbits you learned?
Not really. I mean, Terry's big into golf now. I learned, which I am too. So I think we hit it off on that front. Jahan doesn't do anything but play video games. Learned that one. But no, good group of guys. It was fun getting to know them and see each guy's personality off the field.
Ron told you when you first showed up in March that you're wanted here, and apparently he also had that conversation with you recently. What does that message do for you?
Yeah, I think for anybody, it just builds confidence. It builds confidence within myself. You know, I always think I'm a confident person, but hearing it from somebody else, from the head coach, those types of things, definitely just instills that confidence even more to just go out there and don't put pressure, don't put expectations, just play free, have fun and play free and be you. And just that reminder always from him means a lot, so I can just go out there, play loose, play fast, play free, and have fun.
And at camp, do you have a philosophy of, I'm at camp, maybe I'll force something here to get a feel for it, or are you trying to treat it like it's a Sunday, maybe not, turn the ball over? What's your philosophy in that regard?
It's a great question. I think there's some plays within a camp you want to see how they look and, different things, but once camp hits, it's really, I want to be clean. I want to be efficient. I want to be effective. If the deep ball's there, let's take it. If it's not there, find the check down and start building those habits of just being efficient, being effective, and playing fast. Maybe in OTAs it's a little bit different. Maybe you're trying to hang on some stuff, be more aggressive. Here it's going to come in spurts, but for the most part, your sights are set on being clean and being efficient, and that's what I try and do each time I'm out there.
Got time for two more. Hey, Carson, training camp is unique in a sense that you get up close and personal with the fans. Does that help at all when you have fans this close, and you get to meet them afterward and sign autographs? And my second one is Ron talked a little bit about yesterday about rebuilding the culture and getting fans back at FedEx. Yep. And, how important is that to you to have, a rockin' home crowd behind you?
Yeah, fan support means a lot. Just seeing them out here, even a little bit in OTAs and stuff. And especially the last couple of years with COVID and different protocols and all these things, being personal with people was definitely kind of limited for a lot of reasons, a lot of people. And so just being able to have those interactions, even interactions with y'all, that are different than the last couple of years is refreshing. It's refreshing to me. And then seeing the fan support, that's always huge. And I look forward to seeing FedEx continue to get rocking, and hopefully we can bring them something to cheer about.
Last one.
Carson, how challenging has it been to have to start all over again in 3 different cities throughout the past, 3 years? Yeah. And how do you feel knowing that you're wanted here for the future?
Yeah, I feel confident in myself. I feel belief in myself from the people around me, which means a lot. It is unique. It's a unique business. You're 1 year here, 1 year there, and you try to, you have your sights set on long term wherever you are. But God has different plans sometimes, and try and make the most of it. Try and make the most of it, and just keep plugging along. And I got an awesome wife and kids that they pick up, and here we are. And we're going to fully invest in this city and this team and the people around us, and try and make the most of it for, God willing, hopefully a long time. And it definitely brings about some different life circumstances that I think a lot of people don't understand within a family dynamic, but it's also fun. It's also fun. It's part of the adventure for my family and I, and we're loving it.
All right, so that's Carson Wentz. As what I've gotten used to here, you will not get a lot of controversial answers out of him. Yep. He will say what he's very adept with the PR side of it, and so here we are. So hopefully, I think we're all just hoping for the best with him, really, honestly.
We're all along for the ride.
Yeah, and you know what? If he does somehow hearken into that guy that we used to play against in Philadelphia, 4 or 5 years ago, we're good to go with this guy. And he's not 30 yet. This is going to be the long-term answer for them, but he's got to get back to where he was then. Patrick Corbin is getting shelled right now.
It's hard to look away.
Back to back RBI 2-out hits in the first inning. It's 5-0 Dodgers. They scored 4 runs in the first 2 games combined to this series. They have 5 in the first inning. There were 2 outs with a man on third when they gave up a walk, and then 4 straight hits, 3 RBI singles and 1 2 RBI double. 5-0.
Whenever he,
oh my God!
Whenever he does this, which is often, I just have to woo-saw myself and thinking, 2019 Game 7 World Series, that guy was lights out. That's all I have to keep telling myself.
And on the, are we going to include him in a Soto trade? This isn't helping.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with any GM watching today is like, well, are we really taking that?
That guy Cohen up in New York is saying, throw him in. I'm just going to buy him out.
I don't care. I'll buy him out.
I don't care.
He's like, I have $58 billion. You think I care?
Well, the Nats are like, no.
Yeah.
We're not moving him up to you.
All right. So that's that. So I don't think we're sweeping the series in L.A. today. It doesn't look like that's happening.
It's never good when Erasmo Ramirez is getting up in the bottom of the first inning to warm.
Oh, boy. It's 5-0. And actually, I think we're behind because my scoreboard says 6. So what I'm watching watching
right.
on TV hasn't happened yet.
There we go.
6 first-inning runs. It'll be 6-0 in a moment once our TV catches up to what's happening live.
A lot of people tuning over us today, I guess.
That's right, Han. All right, I'll take a quick break. I want to read what the new GM in Minnesota said about Kurt.
Oh,
boy.
I can't wait for that.
Pretty good. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Here comes Davey Martinez to pull Patrick Corbin, it looks like, in the first inning of his outing against the Dodgers. It is 6-0 in the bottom of the first. All of the runs were scored with 2 outs. He's thrown 45 pitches. Yeah, he's done. Davey just came out to yank him. If you're part of the show up late, leave early crowd at the Dodgers, turn around and go home.
Yeah.
It's 6-0 and a pitching change has already occurred. They're still hitting with 2 on and 2 outs in the bottom of the first. It was scoreless with 2 outs when he gave up, I think it's 5 straight hits now, 5 or 6 straight hits.
Sounds right.
A walk and then 5 or 6 straight hits. 6-0 Dodgers. No sweep today for ye old Nationals. Would have been the shocking sweep of the season, considering what's going on right now.
They did take 2 of 3.
They did.
That's way more than we all thought would happen.
So I'm going to go with, after this inning, this game's going to start moving really fast.
Yeah, probably.
Real fast.
Well, well, I would say on a normal team, yes, but the Dodgers are the Monstars. So, ask those guys not to hit for 7, 8 innings.
Did Toronto score 28 runs or something like that
the Red
the other
Sox
day?
On Friday, last Friday. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Did you see what happened?
At one point, it was 28-3, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was 28-3, and the memes went crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
They got them right where they want them.
Yeah. Boston down 28-3. That's pretty good.
That game actually had my favorite botch ever. I forget who their outfielder was. Pulled a Jason Worth and ran too far up and just kind of looked up and lost the ball. And the guy on the Blue Jays hit an inside the park grand slam.
But that's really an error. But they didn't call it that way?
They didn't call it that way because...
How do you call that?
Yeah, pretty much.
4-base error?
Right.
That's that would be an all-time Tim Kirkshin, he's just tingly trying to figure out how to qualify that.
Yeah, Patrick
all right.
Corbin.
Pitching change first inning, Patrick Corbin. Maybe Rizzo's changing his mind about including him in a deal.
He's asking anybody to take him at this point.
Well, who would? Who's taking that money?
No one.
Nobody.
No one's taking him.
Erasmo Ramirez warming up now in a 6-0 game in the first inning.
Just like he drawn up.
Oh, man. Oh, poor Davey. Poor Davey.
Yep.
All right. I wanted to read this quote for you from the opening of Vikings camp. They have a new GM, new coach there. Kevin O'Connell's actually been very bullish about Kirk Cousins. Of course, worked with him here when he was in Washington as a quarterback coach / play. Was he calling the plays at some point? I can't remember now. People moved around so quickly, I can't remember. I think he was just a position coach. Then he became the OC out there, and then now they're hoping the Sean McVay tree falls. Lands very well for Minnesota now. There's been a lot about obviously. There's been a lot about Mike Zimmer hated Kurt, and therefore that was problematic. And if your head coach hates your quarterback, what are you going to do?
Right.
And so anyway, things have changed, but they have a new GM.
He actually was the coordinator in 2019.
He was.
Yeah.
And then he went to be the coordinator under McVay?
Exactly. Yep. In 2020 and 2021.
After Rivera was hired and the staff change occurred.
But that would mean he was not the offensive coordinator with Kirk. Means he would be on the staff.
He would have been the quarterback coach, I think, at the time.
Yes. Quarterback coach and passing coordinator 2018, and then 2017 he was the quarterback coach as well. So
let's see. New GM of the Vikings, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, was asked about Kirk Cousins. And when you start a sentence with, "I'll be frank," it's going to be good.
Let's go. Here we go,
Jim.
Told
USA Today, "I'll be frank. The one asset where you get nervous about not burning it down is quarterback," because she asked, "Did you consider a change?"
Right.
Which I think we all know they probably did.
Probably.
If they could have got Deshaun, if they could have got Rodgers, if they could have got Russ, they probably would have done it, just like everybody else. But whatever, they are where they are. And they would have been able to trade Cousins. Somebody would have taken him. He'd be on a team right now starting for somebody. There's no question about that.
Sure.
And I think we would have had a weird conversation about, do we take him back if he was actually available? But they didn't land anybody, and they wisely didn't, as he put it, burn it down. But then he said this: Cousins is a, quote, good quarterback, but we don't have Tom Brady and we don't have Pat Mahomes. What a vote of confidence.
Thanks. You're not a goat, but we're
she
stuck
asks,
with you.
Is he good enough then? Quote, The Super Bowl is more likely to win if you have that quarterback. It's very unlikely to have that quarterback, which is an interesting way of saying we're going to keep our expectations somewhere a little below all of that because we don't have Tom Brady or Pat Mahomes, but we got a guy who's okay.
Right.
Wow. I mean, I appreciate the honesty, but I mean, they extended him. He didn't have to do that.
Right.
They extended him. They clearly don't think Kellen Mond, who they drafted a year ago, is going to replace him, right? Even the new staff doesn't think that. So it sounds like they're in the market to upgrade again, just like everybody else, even though I would say, in Kirk's defense, he's pretty good. He's not bad. And maybe, with all the criticisms of what they said about how Zimmer was kind of handling it, maybe they will let him kind of show it off a little bit. He does have very good weapons. Justin Jefferson is among the top 5 receivers in the NFL.
Sure.
Dalvin Cook is a really, really good running back. Thielen's a really good number 2. It's not like he doesn't have capable people and game-breaking people on his team. And I guess we'll find out if Zimmer and his staff held him back or if the new GM is basically saying, hey, man, we inherited this and he's all right.
Well, I will say this. It's a more level-headed response than what the Colts did with Wentz.
I agree.
The most mind-blowing thing about the Wentz trade was that they just traded him without a plan. At least the Vikings are saying, yeah, we'd like to have a top-tier quarterback. We don't have one. This is who we're dealing with right now. So, it's not the biggest vote of confidence in the world, but what else are they going to do?
The other one that I caught was the opening of Cowboys camp, which I'll talk about in the 5 o'clock hour after we listen to Rivera, who was very quick to kind of tamp down expectations on this team. Jerry Jones was very quick to ramp them back up and say we should be in the playoffs and be viable in the playoffs. We'll talk about that. But, of all the things I think are positive about this team, schedule, hopefully upgraded quarterback, looks like a better team, feels like there's an open path for them to be competitive and make the playoffs. Part of that for me also is I don't understand what Dallas did this offseason. I don't understand why they were doing some of the things they did. And I think they took some risks with the roster that they have when the door was wide open to shut it a little bit, and I don't understand why they did it.
Right.
And in the meantime, all anyone's talking about is if Sean Payton will take the Cowboys job, that they'll give it to him. And this is before they've even entered training camp of this year when they won the division a year ago. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So Mike McCarthy's pissed. And the first question he got was about his job security opening training camp. Is the first question he got. And his answer was, it is irritating that the first question you ask me has nothing to do with how I do my job. He goes, I show up every day for work to win a championship. How do we win today? That's what I'm asking. My viewpoint is it's not a story. It's a media-driven narrative, or at the least, a narrative driven outside of my realm.
You have to love it. It's the best.
Oh, man. They're also, openly talking about Dan Quinn taking his job in the middle of the season if things go wrong. And the best part about this is clearly it's not going to go away. And the first 2 games they play are Tampa Bay and Cincinnati. They could lose both of them. Easily lose both of them.
If they lose or if they get blown out, there are going to be questions.
If Tampa Bay beats them 45-10, people are going to be screaming at him.
Yes.
Jerry's going to be drunk on Dallas radio going, I ain't got the time to jack with you. And then if they turn around and lose to the Bengals that are 0-2, people are going to start calling for the guy's job, and everybody knows it. This is why everything is so set up for this team to have a run towards the playoffs, one way or the other. I think it's more largely dependent on how Philadelphia does than how Dallas does.
Right.
But this is the main reason. This is one of the main reasons I look at this and I go, when you're dealing with this, it does not go away unless you're 5-0, and then everybody goes, all right.
Right.
And their schedule doesn't read like they're going to be 5-0.
Yeah.
If they are, he'll shut everybody up. But nobody believes that they're going to do that. And everyone looks at what they did in the offseason and went, that's unusual.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You just gave Amari Cooper away, huh?
Right.
That's weird. Why'd you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you just let these people go?
Right.
Have fun down there, boys.
Yep.
Sounds like it's a bang-up job going on at that camp this year. All right, let me take a quick break. Let's revisit the Soto stuff because Mike Rizzo spoke today. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.